Good evening, 6 p.m. here in Cairo. Welcome to Channel 2 News. I'm Yasmin Bakir. It's time to take a look at the latest news updates happening across the world. Here's the headlines. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi receives national handball youth team after winning the Under-19 Men's World Cup tournament. Members of Egypt's armed forces heads to Russia to take part in joint drills. Syrian army tightens grip on key town after rebel withdrawal. Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi today received the national handball youth team and mission after it won the Under-19 Men World Cup tournament that was held in Macedonia. The team were crowned the World Cup's title for the first time ever after defeating German rivals 32-28 in the finals on Sunday. Hundreds of Egyptians gathered at the Cairo International Airport to greet the World Cup winners, who also secured other individual titles, including Best Player, Best Goalkeeper, and Top Scorer of the championship. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met on Tuesday with the head of the Honoring Fund of Martyrs, Victims and Injured People of Military Security and Terrorist Operations, General Al-Sayed Ghali. During the meeting, President el-Sisi gave his directives to resume intensifying efforts to activate mechanisms of honoring Fund of Martyrs and Injured People of Military Security in their family. The President also ordered efforts that could be realized in coordination concerned with authorities on state gratitude for the sake of safeguarding the nation, who is in great need of security and facing challenges of terrorism in Egypt. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi also presided over a meeting with the Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and the Minister of Education, Dr. Tariq Shawqi. The meeting focused on the latest developments on upgrading the educational system in Egypt, as well as preparations for the new education year. During the meeting, President el-Sisi asserted the importance of upgrading the educational system in a bid to develop the strategy of building the Egyptian human beings. The President also urged to depend on the bank of knowledge and to use it as the main reference for research and scientific education. On his part, the Minister of Education reviewed during the meeting the technological infrastructure for the new education system. Members of Egypt's armed forces have left to Russia to take part in the joint drills dubbed Protectors Friendship 4 with Russian and Belarusian air troops on Tuesday. The Egyptian paratroopers and Russian Belarusians have been taking part in the military drills training exercises which run until the 29th of August. The drills, which are to take part in Belarus, include light, medium and heavy air landing of personnel, equipment and vehicle of the joint forces. Officials said the maneuvers come within the framework of joint drills by the armed forces to boost the military cooperation and transfer expertise in line with the most up-to-date combat tactics. The Interior Ministry today said 11 terrorists were killed in the North Sinai region. A statement made today said the terrorists were killed in a shootout during a security force raid on their hideout near the police station in the provincial capital of Al Arish. It added that according to intelligence from the National Security Department, the militants used the hideouts as a base to launch their hostile operations. Russia and China warned Tuesday that a new U.S. missile test was heightened the military tensions and also risked sparking an arms race. The best comes weeks after the U.S. and Russia ditched the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty this month after accusing each other of violating a 1987 accord. Washington said the agreement also tied its hands in dealings with other powers such as China. The U.S. Department of Defense announced on Monday it had tested a type of a ground-launched missile that was banned under the INF agreement, which limited the use of nuclear and conventional medium-range weapons. The United States has conveyed its strong position to the Greek government about an Iranian tanker that sailed for Greece on Monday after it was freed from detention, and Washington says it's carrying oil to Syria. U.S. State Department officials said that any efforts to assist the tankers could be considered providing material support to the U.S. designated terrorist organization. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced that Russia has military servicemen stationed on the ground in the Idlib region and is following the situation there closely. Lavrov said that any attacks carried out by the militants in Idlib's de-escalation zone would be forcibly suppressed. On the ground, Syrian government forces looked set to recover the strategic town of Khan Sheikhoun that has been held in rebel hands since 2014 in a major Russian-backed offensive into the opposition last major stronghold. Syrian state media reported that the government forces had widened their control, including seizing a highway running through the town, which targeted in a sarin gas attack in 2017. In the Palestinian territories, groups of Israeli settlers invaded the open courts inside Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, along with the Israeli guards, in routine forced visits that are forcing the presence of the Muslim site. In another site in the occupied West Bank, 5 Palestinian youth were injured by the Israeli occupation forces during a similar forced visit by Israeli settlers to the tomb of Yusuf in the northern town of Nablus. Meanwhile, the Israeli occupation forces detained 14 Palestinians in several raids in Jerusalem and other West Bank cities overnight. Sudan's military council said that unveiling of Sudan's power-sharing sovereign council, which will govern the country's transition to a civilian rule, is to take place later on Tuesday. The lineup was due to have been announced on Sunday in line with a deal reached between the Transitional Military Council and the opposition coalition. The saying that its orders on the formation of the Sovereign Council were postponed for 48 hours. It also said the extension was granted at a request of the Forces for Freedom and Change after they came back on some of the 5 names they put forward on Sunday. Yemeni Information Minister Muammar al-Aryani said in a tweet that the separatist Southern Transitional Council surrounded a government special force camp in Zanzibar in Yemen's south and demanded elements inside to surrender. The flare-up in Zanzibar, the capital of Avian province, comes 10 days after separatists seized the de facto capital of Aden. It also comes after a partial withdrawal by the southern separatists from key sites they occupied in Aden upon intervention by a Saudi-led military coalition. Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam said on Tuesday she hoped a peaceful weekend anti-government protest was the start of an effort to restore calm, and the talks with non-violent protesters would provide a way for the Chinese-ruled cities. Hundreds of thousands of protesters have rallied peacefully in torrential rain on Sunday in the 11th week of what have been most often violent demonstrations. Lam said that they will immediately start to work to establish a platform for dialogue that will be based on a mutual understanding and respect to find a way out for today's Hong Kong. Anger erupted in June over a now suspended bill that would allow criminal suspects in the former British colony to be extradited to mainland China for the trial. Moving to the business news, Egypt's market indices collectively surged during today's trade sessions, enhanced by purchasing operations by local investment funds and corporations. The market capital gained £6.6 billion to reach at £762 billion. Benchmark index EGX 30 rose by 0.86% to close at 14,428 points. Medium capped index EGX 70 increased by 0.9%, closing at 500 and 51 points. Broader index EGX 100 also closed up 0.94% at 1,443.4 points. Stock markets edged higher today as investors welcomed signs that the more monetary and fiscal stimulus was on its way, hoping more easing would help stave off a major global economic downturn. The pan-region Euro Stoxx 600 had eked out gains of 0.1%, following on from Monday's rally, while France CAC 40 climbed 0.13% and British FTSE 100.4%. Germany's DAX was modestly lower. However, in Asia, Hong Kong stocks ended lower as investors locked in profit after a 4-day winning streak following Beijing's interest rate reform. The Hang Seng Index ended down 0.2%, while China's Enterprises Index closed 0.2% higher. MSCI's Asia X Japan Stocks Index was firmer by 0.36%, while Japan's Nikkei Index closed at 0.55%. In energy markets, oil prices initially extended its rally on broader market optimism before the gains fizzled. Brent crude was last down marginally at $59.67 a barrel. U.S. crude also fell at a touch of $56.11 a barrel. Oil prices also were rising on hopes for the trade talks and stimulus, and following a strike by the Yemeni rebels on Saudi Arabian oil fields at the weekend.